and welcome to, let us start now recording at time on time. So welcome to Conquer the Mirror Demon. So Kim just jumped in, so Kim and me will just touch space because it's important for me at work to be on time. So welcome, Kim, nice to see your face.
Welcome. Hello, thanks for having me.
You are most welcome. So yeah, welcome everyone again to Amazing Life Interview. So this is all about Conquering Your Demon, and this is so interesting, this topic we are going into. So my name is Tanja Andersen, and I am your host at this amazing summit that is called Conquer the Mirror Demon. Hope you can hear me. I was forgetting the sounds. Yes. So yeah, the speaker we have with us is Kim Groshek. Please say your last name, my friends. And welcome.
Kim Groshek.
Amazing. So
yeah.
So why I picked Kim was because Kim was really talking about this, like practice the pause, and her journey into facing her own past, to face her own challenge as she had faced in the past, and really turn that into self-care was an interesting journey, as she shared with me in a talk. So a little bit about Kim. Kim will share a little bit in the details who she is. So Kim and me have known each other for a few months, and in a program we are both in right now called Hardcore Business, a amazing program for entrepreneurs. And it has been an interesting journey to watch sometimes Kim popping up, and I reached out to her because I was interested to know who she is. So she is an expert in mental health experts and guiding every person in a transformative journey to conquer their inner mirror demon, and they will turn that into self-care. So yeah, Kim, share a little bit about shorts about who you are in your business.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for over 35 years. I've gone into Fortune 100 companies, startups, you name it, and I would transform them. So if they were failing, they'd say, hey, Kim, can you come in and help us fix this because we're going to go under? And I've done mergers and acquisitions. I've done things in the insurance industry. I've done higher education. If you've ever heard of realtor.com, I was way back in 2000. I had teams to build that. So that's what I have done. And now I'm actually, in the last year, I've actually transitioned out, and I called myself semi-retired, and I just couldn't retire, right? So I had to put that semi in there. And now I'm actually creating this movement, which is called Practice the Pause.
Amazing. And guys, and thank you for sharing, Kim. So the topic is practice the pause. So that is very interesting. So Kim, let's go back in the past before you get the expert as you are today. So let's go back in the past to a time, to a challenge that was very difficult for you to face around your own ego, around your own mirrors, demons. So tell us about that situation.
Yeah, so I'm a very driven person, and when was it? It was about late 1990s. So I started my career back in the late 80s, and I've been following this computer science trend. Like, I've been riding the wave as everything's going. I'm with it, right? And in around 2000, I was brought in to work at a company, and one morning, I was, I'm an early bird, and I was sitting at my desk, and for some reason, the CEO came in and just said, pack up your bags, you're fired, get out of here. I was like, whoa. So for me, I had this major career, right? And I didn't know what I did. He didn't even explain. And I found out later what the deal was, but I packed up, and I'm telling you, for 6 months, I was very depressed because the whole ego, right? I was really brought up to be a very hard worker and very driven, and everything, I have a daughter who's, thriving at 35. I mean, she's amazing. I'm really so proud of her. So I was raising her. I was also going to school while I was working. And then eventually I was teaching while I was working, right, at the university. And so when I got home, my husband didn't know what to do with me. I mean, I would get up every morning and I would go just lay down. I couldn't get out. I couldn't get up. There was this like, I was in the depth of despair. I didn't know I was depressed at the time, but I was like, my husband kept on trying to get food, here, you got to eat something. I was just totally gone. Right. I don't even remember it. Like, I just remember parts of it. But then eventually, someone had called me up and said, hey, Kim, this large company wants you to come in and they need a major overhaul because they're spending tons and tons and tons of money out on compliance. And so I was like, no, okay. So I set up an interview, and the day of, I called up and said, no. I was still in that kind of that feeling, right, of despair. And so she just talked me into going, and I ended up getting back on my feet. So that was my start in really depression, like going through that grief process and learning what that was. And
before you're sharing like opportunity, we get to go a little bit deeper in being in the service, Kim. So let's go deep around, how did you feel? What did you experience? How did you talk to yourself? Because the audience get to feel you. We get to go a little bit deep right now.
Yeah. I told myself a lot of stories. So I just remember laying on the couch, right? And I kept on saying, you're not good enough. It's like, what did you do? It's like, like I said, that the person never told me why. Like, again, later I got a call from someone. They told me that I was overstepping. Like I was actually doing what I was hired to do, was to transform. I was doing interviews out in the shop to see how they were doing things current state. So I could actually, help put the bridge in to get the future state in place and get the training and all of that. And, but at the time, it's like, it's like, what do I need to do to, like, what's going on here? Honestly, it was like I was in a black hole, and there wasn't, almost like the stories were gone. It was like, almost like I was just in this black hole, and there was no, it wasn't like I was climbing out and telling the stories about myself, but there was this, that, you did something wrong. You are, useless. You're, it's like, and I never, like, I've always been good at what I do. I work hard to be good at what I do. And if I make mistakes, I fix them. I try to work through that. Right. There's been things like with our interview, it's like, I learned, right. It's like, I didn't know. You just said, hey, put me on my spot and said, you got to stand up and do this, whatever. Right. And that's really what it was. It was really, truly, I was in a black hole. There's no stories around it. I just couldn't get it, and I needed to be there. It was like, in grief, people have their different processes. And for me at that time, now I've gone through different times of grief where I've lost and stuff, not as severe, but I've learned now from that experience, it wasn't so deep. Like I didn't sit in a black hole for 6 months, when I go through grief now.
So in the past, when you facing your grief, you did not face no emotions. You have no really emotion around it. You just have a black hole. So you are like a dead soul, or what, since there was no emotion for you to connect with.
Yep, for that 6 months. But then when I started getting out, the emotions flirted. And then it was like, okay, then it was like my driven personality was like, you got to dig out of this hole. And my driven personality allowed me to climb, climb. Oh, there's an emotion here. And then now I'm going to feel sadness, and then so I'm gonna sit in the sadness for a while. And then I kept climbing, and then there was anger, right? All those feelings. Even as I was getting out, then I felt, and then I started feeling more confident because I was.
So before you share that, Kim, It is what it is. My experience, you don't want to go deep right now, really experience and sharing how it was, and it's what it is. We get to step into another questions to really get into what you have to share with the audience in the end. So what was the turning point in your life where you saw you was in a black hole and have no feelings whatsoever? You were just like blank piece of paper. So when was the turning point for you to step up of that ladder?
Well, it was someone else that talked me into it. I didn't do it myself. And I believe that every situation I've been in, that's what happens. like my husband is always there for me. My husband is always, I've been married for 35 years and he is always there for me. So he will be there as an external source, but he didn't know what to do. So then the other external source was someone who called me and said, Kim, you are a very qualified person. I want you to come into this big company because I have seen your experience in the past and you can make a difference. You can do this. You can help this company. So someone else did that. And then I went out with other people, had that interview, and then people saw me and saw such good things about me. And then I got home, right? And then I started to say, oh, I had a glimmer of hope. I feel like I'm good enough. It's like that the external sources came to me.
So specific one was the turning point. Like for me, a specific situation was the 21 April 2019. I was praying my lungs out to the sky, and I get a sign around sell everything. I chose to sell everything that day. That was the turning point for me, specific what happened on that day when shit happens. So that was one of my turning points, to sell everything I owned, to travel to Guatemala. So what your turning point to get out of your black hole?
Yeah, so I actually started to do yoga, and I was in the studio, right? And I was in a meditative type yoga, and it was very weird to be in there because I've never done yoga before. But there was kind of this experience of like, you in breath work, right? It was just an experience of, you are good enough. And then I went on a meditation writing retreat over in Colorado, and that was the big time. And what it just was like, I learned how to meditate 5 minutes a day right before each meal. And halfway through that, I'd get up early and I'd walk around. They had this circle, you go around and around and around. And it was like a spooky place. Like, it was like, no one's really there in the mountains, right? But it was like in the dark, and you could hear these different animals, right? And I'm walking around, and it's like, all of a sudden I was like, wow, it's like I said to myself, I'm overcoming my fear here by standing in this scary place in the middle of this like gigantic mountain. No one's out here, and all these animals are out here making all these strange noises, but I'm doing it. I'm breathing, and I'm walking around this circle. I remember that. So, and it just kind of gives me chills because it was like, wow, all it takes is just me, it was really cool.
So your turning point was when you choose to meditate and do that as a practice in your life.
Yeah. Yep.
Amazing. So what is one lesson and wisdom for you from your past, when one of the challenge moments for you in the past was this black hole and not connected with your emotional area? So how did you turn that around to wisdom as you use today?
I kind of use this analogy. When something happens to me, it's like I fall down in the dirt and I sit there for a moment and kind of figure out what happened. And then I kind of get up, wipe my dirt off my butt and I get up and walk. So that's it's like, really, that is something I always tell myself when I get in a situation. It's like, okay, get up, wipe that dirt off your butt, move forward, learn, I always do sit and figure out, like, I look back, what happened? And then, okay, how can I alter and adjust my behavior? And I have put in all these different frameworks every time, like different things, but that's one thing. That's the first thing that I do always. I always tell myself, okay, you landed on your butt again. So then it kind of is funny too, and then, wipe that dirt off your butt and get up. And
that's amazing. So there's one of your wisdom, one of your lessons from that dark time in your past.
Yeah.
Is wipe up the dirt from your ass and get up again.
And make it fun, like kind of put a little humor to it, because this is pretty tough stuff, right?
It is important for me as promoter controller. Like, I get to really make it fun for me to step out of my victim mentality and step out of my stuckness or self-harm, as that has been a huge part of my whole life. Sometimes still stepping up because I live in that for 35 years. So when I really saw my victim mentality in the eyes and really stuck in it, like I need to move my body. And that is coming with funny noises, funny jumps, and I get to push myself as I get angry in the beginning because I'm so stuck. I choose to be stuck. So most of the time, what has really served me is my friends, my good friends in my life. I send them a funny voice message, or I'm like, I'm going crazy, and they just love that from me, my close friends. And for a few weeks ago, I tell them like, do you know why I send you these funny noises? Like some just out in the blue. It's like, no, it's just because you think about me. No, it's because I have the biggest nerd party in the beginning and I need to send it to someone. And it's just a bonus because I give the other person laugh, smile, and shift the other person into where they get to be. So there's a gift in both sides. That's very interesting to give that forward. My nerd party, there's being a gift for someone else.
Yes. That's big. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this. Like, I really think it's an interesting like practice of the pause, because for me to be in silence or sit down and be quiet, sitting with a book or in nature, the best way for me. If I get to sit still in my home, oh my God, my thought is just going crazy sometimes. In nature, there's just silence in my mind.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about this like practice of the proper pause. There has been your journey into really conquer your own demons or conquer your own ego and turn that around to something that is really used today as self-care.
Yeah. So this is a journey again. So I talk about a black hole, right? So, I got on Facebook back in 2005 when it started. I was one of his team members, right? Put on practicing it before anyone else. And the other university came on, then it expanded to the public. And I eventually, I was became the expert, and I would teach people, the quality around it and making sure, what's your information you share and all those kind of things, and how you, the security around it. And as I went, and it was probably around, so this is in 2005, right? And so there's all this whole journey where I worked on my PhD, and I was going to put attitude in a computer. And I decided there was a whole thing where I was standing in Chicago, right, in the middle of the sidewalk, and it was busy during lunch hour. And all of a sudden, this little 8-year-old, and back then we didn't have the devices, right? We had not many people had them, right? It wasn't in the infrastructure like it is today. And he had a Game Boy though. And, back then, people bumping into each other was kind of a big deal. Now it's like people do or fall off a cliff. And I'm sorry, but it's strange how it was happening here. But anyway, so he was like looking at his Game Boy, and he ran into me and looked at me and made a face and walked around. And I was like, and then his dad kind of came and looked around, didn't say, excuse me, sorry, because I was just standing there, right? And I was kind of brought up that, when I'm a child, I sit on the sofa and an adult comes, I get up, and give that adult the seat, right? But it's changed. And so I was like, at that moment, I said, you know what? I'm creating attitude. Now they have it all in the computers and everything. But back then it's like, I was creating the concept. It wasn't there yet. And I just couldn't, I had all my courses done. I said, you know what? This is unethical for me to be driving this. I want these devices to be in the back seat. And I could see it coming that the devices are now driving in the driver's seat and we're sitting in the back seat and we're just following whatever it says. And so there's a whole story around that. But in 2015, I found myself in that black hole again, where I didn't know I was there, right? I'd get up in the morning and I'd plug right into all the social medias, right? And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes or 2 hours later, I'm still in social media. What did I do all day, during that 2 hours? So I decided at that moment that I unplug this for a year. Everything was in infrastructure. You had to use these, right? And I unplugged this. I'm going to see if I can not use this for a year. I'll just have my husband's number so people need to call me, but it's not using it the way it's just being used now, and deactivate my social media for 6 months. How is that going to work for me? So I did. And so then I journaled about it, and I practiced it. So this was my pause, which I didn't know was called a pause at the time, right? Pausing away. And then it gave me actually a lot of time back. Then I was able to start practicing yoga more. I actually got certified now at UIRT 500, and I totally use this every day. I just got done meditating before I have this, right? it really gets me grounded, right? And so it just took me till now to actually compile everything, right? And this actually start initiating movement. So in July of this year, I did a practice run to encourage everyone to take 15 minutes a day and pause, unplug, and breathe, or do something different, like go take a walk out in nature, play chess if you haven't played chess with someone, or just get to know yourself, right? And we did it for 5 days to see what would happen. And everyone I had 42 experts come on board, and they practiced it with me. And it was that lessons learned. We stopped and talked about what we were learning along the way. And then 300 other people came on board to practice as well, to participate on their own. And it was just amazing. And so now I'm going to have my first event February 17th and 18th in Orlando. It's going to be in person, where we'll bring families, and it's really a healing event. I'm bringing it into schools, a 90-day challenge, and companies and organizations, so they can reach out to me, right? And we can do it together. I just come out and I put the framework, help them put the framework in place and support them so that they can
I'm a little bit confused what you talk about now, because now you're going into share your business.
Yep.
That is the connection to practice the pause, or where are you right now with your talk?
It is. Yep.
Okay. So before you're sharing, we get to focus on the freebie instead of talk about other stuff in your business. Just like keep it on the freebie to audience.
Yep.
So do you have something else to share around focus on the freebie, focus on the topic around practice the pause?
The freebie is a book, online book. You get the whole book, and you get to read all about my experiences and what I learned, and maybe you can gain something too as you practice it.
Amazing. What is the benefit from them?
So each story, it's just basically a story, each chapter, and it tells some of the lessons or some framework that you can put in place, some different ideas from each of the stories. So like, for instance, some people had put a timer on at the top of the hour to remind them to go on a walk for 5 minutes and just walk away. So they broke their 15 minutes up. So those kind of ideas are brought in after the story, saying this is what I did. And feel free to, I don't say it's just a framework. You can pick and choose what you want to use. But it ties the story to it from my experience.
So that book you're sharing about, people get a free link, like a PDF file around your book. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's an ebook. Yep.
An ebook. So do people learn what practice the pause in that book?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So why is important to practice the pause in life?
Oh my goodness. Now everything is going so fast, and there's no time. Like people are even in companies. I was just talking to someone at the airport where they go from one meeting and it's an anger meeting, something happened, right? And they're yelling, and then they go right to the next meeting. There's no time to take a breath. And the pause is really just a reminder just to take some time and breathe, right? Get away from the technology, because that's the stuff that's kind of driving it, right? It's not that I'm saying technology is bad. I use it all the time. What I'm saying is it's the pause. We're just so fast, and there's no stop to even get our minds around things or give us time to create or think. Like that time where I was in the black hole for 6 months, which, I know that's a long time, or unplugging for 6 months. It gave me time to just be in whatever that was, right? I couldn't explain it. And there are times when we're going to be in things like and then it's like in our bodies, and it's like we're building all this stuff in our bodies, and there's no time to just even take the pause to make decisions around how we're going to absorb it and deal with it. It just keeps on swirling, right? So that's why it's so important. Very important.
Thank you. And to you, dear audience that is watching, how you get access to this ebook around practice the pause is there's a link on this video, or you go back straight to your newsletter you received before this interview. There is the link to Kim's free gift to you guys. So with the last word, Kim, what advice would you like, or what advice do you have for your 20 years old you with the wisdom you have today?
Practice the pause. I didn't. So what I say to you, my young friend, is just take some time, take a pause and take a breather and just walk away, take some time in nature, just settle and just be with yourself and love yourself.
Amazing. Do you have some last words to share with the audience? One thing they can take away from this interview, if they get to focus on one thing?
The one thing, pause. That is the one thing. That is such a big deal. So just the word pause. You got this.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, the audience, for watching this interview with Kim and me. And we are so blessed by having you here. And if you have some questions, comment this video below or going back to get all the information you need to know around Kim. And also if you have some questions. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. And thank you so much, Kim, for being here and sharing your voice around what is important around practice the pause. So thank you so much for being a part of Conquer the Mio Demon.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Bye, everyone. Have an amazing day and see you soon again. Bye.